Hello and welcome to episode 8 of Gameday Gameplay, the sports segment of Console Space. I'm your host, Sean Colangelo, joined, as usual, by the man I envy the most in the wintertime. Although it's going to be a little warmer, I guess, these next few days. Todd from Florida, what's up, man?
It's not much, man. Just hanging out. A lot going on, but just trying to get stuff done.
Yes, I do. So how about typical uh, northeast climate? Uh, it's going to be like 60 up here tomorrow and Friday, and then
hmm
right back down to 25 on Saturday.
That's crazy.
So
It's been in the high 60s the last couple days here. We finally got out of that polar vortex. It's supposed to drop down again, but not like as low as it has been. I don't think it's supposed to get like below 40 or anything. So
yeah, that's gonna be pretty insane. It's a lot of people will probably be getting sick pretty
yeah,
quickly after that. But
yeah, I can see
anyway,
it.
enough of my old man griping about the weather. Um, we are gonna dip our toes into the NBA this week, unlike last week. So let's start with that.
Let's start with a little bit of injury news. Couple big names out there that got injured. Kawhi Leonard from San Antonio, obviously one of the better players in the league. Some people make the argument he's the most valuable player in the league. He'd been missing the entire season with a quad injury. He came back 8 games ago and last night tore his shoulder. Some of the
Jeez.
tear in his shoulder. So rains it pours for Kawhi, man.
Yeah, can't get a break
He's
apparently.
exactly. Don't know how long he's going to be out for that one. Obviously, if it's a torn ligament in the shoulder, it's not anything that's going to heal quickly. It might not be season-ending per se, but he's probably looking at only playing at most 20 games this year, if that. So, um, bad news for him. He's a great player. The league's definitely better when he's playing. So, hopefully he can get back to health as soon as possible there. But uh, Anthony Davis down in New Orleans, he sprained his ankle. It's the second time he's been injured this year, I think, too. He's their star player, so that definitely hurts them. Sprained ankles are weird in basketball. That could be like, multiple weeks or it could be a few days. Just depends on the severity of the sprain. I don't think they've announced how bad it is yet. So, not really sure the timetable of that one yet, but he's going to miss at least a couple games with it probably. And then this one was one that I actually watched. Kyle Lowry from Toronto um, took a pretty nasty fall during a game the other day. He went up for a rebound and collided with another team's player. And when he came down, it looks like he landed pretty much square on the hip, like right on the hip on the ground. And he immediately grabbed like his lower back and was really struggling. He tried to get up and walk, made about 3 steps, and then went back down. And they had to like carry him. Well, assist carrying him back to the locker room. They haven't put any update out yet saying what's wrong with him, what he did, but looks like could have broken something in his back to be honest with you from the way he was reacting, and that's pretty scary stuff.
Jesus. Um,
Yeah.
well, I will say on the topic of sprained ankles, you know how you were saying they're weird injuries in terms of length of time. Um,
Mhm.
I um, I played back in high school, and there's this guy on the team that like I swear to God would sprain his ankle every other practice, not even just
Ouch.
game, and he would use the technique. It's probably not a good idea, but he would just tie his shoe like super tight, which supposedly would like prevent it from swelling, and just keep playing. And I don't think this guy ever played without a sprained ankle. Like he just perpetually had a sprained ankle. Um,
He
so
might have been a case if he messed it up really bad when he was younger or something, and because of that the ligaments were already weak. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's the thing is that like once they get so stretched, it like doesn't even matter anymore. Like at that point,
Yeah.
I guess it's just a matter of whether you can play through the pain or not. But
Yeah.
I mean, he did it.
Ligaments don't heal. I mean, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? They're damaged. They're damaged.
yeah, for sure. I mean, he's one of our best players, and he kept playing. So I don't know how he did it, man, but it was crazy.
Yikes. Yeah. Like I said, it all just depends on the severity, especially in the pros. I mean, if it's a minor sprain, it's probably only a couple days. If it's a bad one, you could be looking at, weeks or even longer. So,
Yeah.
just really depends on what the doctors say after they check him out. But the only other news I had for the NBA, I don't know if you saw this. It's kind of a drama thing. You know who LeVar Ball is, right? You've heard that name.
Unfortunately.
He is starting shit. We'll put it that way with the Lakers coach.
Well, that's a good idea.
Obviously, LeVar Ball's son, Lonzo Ball, plays for the Lakers. He's basically trying to come out and say that their coach has lost their locker room and that he's doing a horrible job and all this stuff. Mind you, this isn't Lonzo saying any of this. Lonzo doesn't do that kind of stuff. It's all his dad. Lonzo stays out of it pretty much entirely. He every interview I've seen Lonzo do, he says the right things, but his dad's kind of getting him in trouble for stuff that's said. So it's causing a rift a little bit between the team. It seems like, as the team has come out and said, no, we support our coach, we like our coach, we like playing for him, but um, LeVar's got to. He says whatever he says to get in the media. The dude's a media attention hog, and I think Steve Kerr said it best in an interview this week when they called him the Kardashian of the NBA. That's 100% what he is. Um, it's kind of ridiculous. I can't imagine any other situation of a player's dad trying to get that much crap started on the team.
Yeah, I really wish people would just ignore him and he'd go away, but unfortunately that's not how these things work. So
Yeah, yeah. It's the problem is people want to know what he says. The ESPN, the media is at the end of the day, it's a business. They're gonna put out what gets the most clicks,
oh, I know, I
and
know. I don't want to know what he
people
says. I
stop
don't pay
clicking on it,
attention.
they stop covering it. But
I don't pay attention to anything that he says. But
I try
unfortunately
not
most
to,
people
man.
do.
But I mean, when it gets that far that he's calling out the coach and stuff, it is kind of
Oh
newsworthy.
yeah.
You gotta,
Yeah.
you know,
No, that's
gotta
for
deal with
sure.
that. But
He's an
But
idiot.
other than that, let's just pop into the standings. It's about halfway through the season, kind of same with hockey, so kind of getting a better idea of who's falling where. You know what I mean? It's getting to that point. Boston's still first in the East, 33 and 10. Toronto's actually climbed up to second, 28 and 11. Cleveland is sitting at 26 and 14, and Miami is fourth now. They put on a pretty good run there, 23 and 17. Over in the West, Golden State's gone on a heck of a tear. They're 33 and 8 now for a pretty solid lead in the West. Houston's behind them at 28 and 11. San Antonio at 28 and 14, and then Minnesota at 26 and 16.
Minnesota.
Minnesota. Yep. So those are looking like pretty much standings in basketball aren't usually that much of a surprise, to be completely honest with you. And it's kind of fallen to where, pretty much everything expected. Oklahoma City's climbed back up into a playoff spot. They're sixth in the West now. They were the biggest surprise earlier this year, the fact that they were out of it, but they're getting it together. So not a whole lot of insane stuff going on. Cleveland being a third's a little weird, but Cleveland never really plays that hard in the regular season anyway, so it
Well,
is
I'll
what
tell
it
you
is.
one thing. They sure aren't as surprising as some aspects of the NHL standings. And
Oh yeah.
let's go ahead and get to that.
Yeah, we'll get into the standings, but let's go over a little bit of news I've got for them first.
Sure.
Nashville made some signings this week. Nothing major, really. Signed three players. Yannick Weber, they signed him to a 2-year deal, 675K per, so league minimum. They signed Matt Irwin, same exact deal, 2 years, 675K. And Ford Anthony Boteto, 1 year, 650K. So, um, not big deals, not splashy deals by any means, but they extended a couple of their depth guys and made sure they're locked up for the next year at least, or 2 years in the case of the defensemen's. You know, is what it is. Not flashy, not sexy or anything, but it's what you got to do. The small signings to really build around the team.
Well, speaking of Nashville, it's kind of a shame for them, at least, that they weren't this deep up the middle last year. They probably would have beat the Pens in the final. Um,
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, so they obviously, they acquired Nick Bonino. I don't think he's quite lived up to that second line role they were hoping, but
well,
it doesn't
he's
really
not second
matter.
line at this point anymore.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and that's what I was gonna say is like it doesn't really matter anymore because they got Kyle Turris. Um, So they're actually one of the better teams up the middle now, whereas last year they pretty much just had Ryan Johansson,
And if you
and
remember,
then
Ryan
after that,
Johansson did play a game in the finals
he didn't
either.
play a game in the final. Yeah, so they
So,
that was probably their biggest weakness against the Penguins, who last year probably were the best team up the middle.
one
Whereas
of, for
this
sure,
year,
yeah.
or just here, the Preds actually might be one of the best teams up the middle. So weird how that works out, but you know,
Oh, yeah.
they've been a
The
pretty good
Preds,
team
the
this year. So
Preds, I got to give Poyle credit for as GM for the Preds. He has made only good moves in the last couple years. I mean, it started off with moving Jones for Johansson, which at the time, Seth Jones was a young stud defenseman, but Poyle knew what he had coming back with, all the other defensemen they had. I mean, they moved out. It's crazy to think they moved out Seth Jones, and they still probably have one of the best defensive cores in the league. Um,
yeah, well, on top of what they already had, which was great, then they got
Subban for Weber.
well, not just that, but an expansion draft. Did they get Emelin?
Yes.
So it's like,
Yes,
yeah,
they
they
picked.
just, you
Vegas
know,
picked Emelin and then traded him to. Where did they? How did that work out? How did Nashville end up with him? Who did they send back for Emelin? I think they just sent a pick for Emelin. To be honest with you, I can't remember what it was. I think it was a third round pick. I want to say
yeah.
for Emelin. So yeah, I mean he's playing like a fifth, sixth kind of deep pairing role. He might be in the top four right now with Ellis out. I know Ellis has been out for a good portion of the year,
You know what?
so he
Actually,
might be playing top four with him.
Ellis just came back last night.
Ah, I got you. Yeah,
Yep.
so that'll get them their top four set again. Ellis is one of the most underrated defensemen in the league. I think he and Alcon both. If not for their play, their contracts for sure, because they're both making under $4 million a year, and they are solid top four guys.
Oh yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
it's pretty crazy the way they've been able to build that team. But yeah, they've got to be a favorite in the West right now, or at least one of them. I mean, they're deep down the middle. They've got wingers that can play. Their defense is stacked. I guess it all depends on how Rene plays, because he can either be a superstar level goalie or, as you saw in the finals last year, a very mediocre one. So it really just depends on if he shows up in the playoffs or not.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
Couple other things. Cody Franson was a name that was thrown out a lot during the free agency. Not last year, maybe not this last offseason, but the one before it, before he signed with Buffalo. It's gotten to the point where he was just waived by Chicago and no one picked him up. He was not claimed. He went down to the minors. Pretty drastic free fall from, I think, if you look back at the 2015-16 season, he was making $4 million a year as a fourth guy on where was he at then? I can't remember where he was at that point. It might have still been in Buffalo, but he fell off pretty fast. And it's kind of crazy because if you look at Chicago, there's another big name defenseman that's kind of following that path, and his name is Brent Seabrook.
Yeah, he just got scratched, didn't he?
He did. He did. He's been playing horribly, and the problem with Seabrook is Franson, he's only making $1 million. You could probably move him to a team that's desperate enough if they want him. Seabrook's making 7.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, that's gonna hurt Chicago, and it's not expiring anytime soon, if I remember correctly. So
Oh
that's gonna
yeah,
be a
they signed him for
horrible contract for them to deal with.
like 1,000 years or something. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, man, when you consider they're scratching Seabrook, uh, Franson must be playing pretty badly because you would think they could use him.
They've got a lot of youth coming up in the blue line. That was kind of surprising. Like they got Ruda, I think his name is Jan Ruda. Is one of them that's kind of earned his way. Don't forget they also got who did they get back from Arizona for Homerson? I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Mm. Is it like
It was a
some with
defenseman.
some with a P, right?
Give me 2 seconds and I'll find it here. But what were you saying about Franson is just the fact that he can't get in the lineup even with them
Yeah, I
scratching.
mean, um, I guess it makes sense if they just want to let their young guys have a chance. Especially because right now they're they're on the outside looking in of the playoffs. Um, might not even make the playoffs, which I mean, they won 3 cups in 6 years. I don't think it would be a tragedy if they, end up missing
No,
the playoffs. But
and
yeah,
Quinville's not going anywhere either, so it's not like it's
no.
gonna hurt their coach or anything. Connor Murphy's the guy I was thinking of, although he's
Oh,
been getting scratched by them recently too. So, um, yeah, I mean they've got a lot of rookie defensemen that are playing. They got Gustav Forsling, Jan Ruda, Jordan Osterley, and there was one more, Michael Kempney. All those guys are either rookies or guys that don't have a ton of games in the NHL, and they're all pretty much found their way into a starting role right now. So Chicago's building out of youth, kind of like what Pittsburgh was forced to do the last couple of years with their wingers, more so than their defensemen. Somewhat their defensemen with Dumoulin and guys like that, but mostly their wingers with Sheary, Rust, um, Gensel, Sprong,
yeah, yeah.
Simone. Sorry, but um, yeah, moving on. One last thing I want to talk about before we talk about the standings. I don't know if you saw anything about that Oilers game last night.
I was actually about to watch it, and then I ended up not.
Gotcha. Well, Oilers lost to the Predators last night, 2-1, and they scored a goal late in the third that would have tied it, but ended up coming back because Kyra was the smallest bit offside. I mean, I'm talking like his back skate was maybe an inch off the ice when the puck went over. And it was clear. I mean, you could see it in video review when they reviewed it. Nashville did review it, obviously, and it got overturned, and they ended up losing 2-1. Um, Connor McDavid had some choice words about the offside challenge after the game. He admitted that obviously, if it had gone the other way for him, if it was the other way around, he probably wouldn't be saying anything about it at the time. But he thinks overall, most people don't like to see these kind of things overturned off of does a guy's back skate being an inch off the ice make a difference on the play? Really, is basically what he's trying to say, and I kind of agree with him on it. I liked the offside challenge in the fact that you know goals that are clearly offside and didn't get caught. Cough, cough, Danny Briere, cough.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a more egregious example of someone being offside, and the refs are just like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Um, Things like that, I think, should be able to get challenged. I think they should change the offside rule, though, and just make it if any part of your body is behind the line when it comes over. It doesn't matter if it's on the ice, as long as it's behind the line. Um, then it's not offside. Because these challenges where is the skate down, is the skate up, I think a lot of people are like, why does that matter at the end of the day to the goal? Because it's not changing the play. You know what I mean? It's not affecting the play at all. It's such a minute difference that it's not giving the team that's quote offside any kind of advantage. So
yeah. I think it's kind of a similar thing to what we saw like over the last several weeks with the NFL. It's like they are correctly calling it by the rule, but maybe the rule's
the
not
rules
so
for
great.
yeah,
Um,
exactly,
I mean,
exactly.
I
Yeah,
agree that
like I said, it was clear from the replay that his back skate was up. It was the right call. It really
yeah.
was. Um, but it's one of those things that's like, yeah, it's true, but did that really affect the play? You know what I mean? Like,
Well, and it's
and that's
it's it's particularly uh, puzzling, when it comes to the NHL because they're a league who claims that they want more scoring, and yet
exactly.
currently the only challenge is really like take goals away.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really. Again, like as it stands right now, they are currently correctly enforcing the rules, but
Hmm.
it just seems kind of contradictory to what they're saying they want, which is more goals.
Yeah, and like they tried to make the change this offseason with the penalty if when the outside challenge, where if you challenge it, you get it wrong, you get a delay game penalty instead of losing the timeout. That's cut down on some of the tacky ones because I think last season there were coaches that were challenging any play that was close because at the very least if they got it wrong they just lose a timeout and they got a break
Yeah.
for their players.
Right.
That's gotten rid of that aspect of it, but I think the spirit that they went for when they put this in was to be able to challenge those obviously offside plays that affected the play. You know what I mean? Like the Briere goal where the guy's 2 feet over the line before the puck goes over, and no one caught it. Um, those are the ones that I think they're trying to cut down on. Not these like inches plays where as the guys skate off on or off the ice as he's coming across. I don't think that's really what they meant to be
Yeah,
challenged when they did this. So
yeah,
um, we'll see what they do in the offseason. It's still not perfect. They're getting a lot of blowback from both the players and the fans on it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them make some kind of change. Like I said, the one I would like to see them change isn't so much the challenge, but the rule of offside itself. Make it so it doesn't matter if the skate's on or off the ice, as long as it's behind the line. It should be
right.
onside, in my opinion. But we're about halfway through the season, so let's take another look at the standings, see where everyone sits right now. Um, Over in the East, we got Tampa Bay in first in the Atlantic, 65 points, 31-9-3. That's a heck of a record. Boston's kind of zooming up behind them though. They're up to 53 points and they're second in the Atlantic. And Toronto is tied with them at 53, but they have 4 more games played, so they're sitting at third right now. And then over in the Metro, Washington's first in the Metro with 57. Columbus is second with 53. Jersey's right behind them with 52. And then the 2 wildcard spots currently belong to the Rangers and our Penguins, 49 points and 47 points respectively. Hopping over to the West, this is a weird one, man. The team at the top of the Central right now is the Winnipeg Jets. Would you believe that if I had told you that in the offseason?
No, what did they like make moves or something, or like are they just less shitty than they were last year? I guess.
They're getting some quality goaltending out of Hellebuck right now,
Ah,
and
okay.
that was their biggest weakness was their goaltending. Because
Yeah.
I mean, dude, if you look at their roster, at least on the offensive side, they are a stacked offensive team. I mean, you're talking about Shifley, Ehlers, Little, Wheeler, Line A. Um, there's guys I'm missing that I know are good. Andrew Kopp's good. Um, they've got a ton of talent up there up front. And then their defense isn't awful either. I mean, they've still got Byfleet, they still got Tyler Myers. They got Enstrom. They've got um, I'm missing a guy, Morrison. Morrissey, sorry, Morrissey. They're a good team. I think they underperformed last year, and Hellebuck's kind of giving them the goaltending they need right now, so they're playing it where they should be right now. But Nashville's not far behind them. They're 56 points compared to 59, and they have 2 games in hand, so they're kind of battling for first in the Central. St. Louis is right behind them with 55 points, and then over in the Pacific, Vegas is the top team in the Western Conference. That I would not have believed either. That's a crazy story. They're sitting at 60 points. The Kings are behind them with 53. San Jose is third with 48, and the wild card spots belong to Dallas and Chicago currently, 51 and 48. So
Well, well. Yeah.
kind of a little bit of surprises. Teams that we all pretty much assumed would make it aren't in it right now. Anaheim and Edmonton especially are 2 of the big ones. And then Montreal over in the East, I don't think many people had out of the playoffs either. So um,
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody would have guessed the Knights would be tops in the West. That's
no,
insane. Um,
no.
and what I was alluding to earlier are the fact that the Hawks and Pens, who have, I mean, are both, they've probably been the 2 top teams in the last, 10 years or so. Um, you know, uh, the Hawks obviously won 3 in 6 years. The Pens won 3 in about 8 years, but repeated. So I would call them about even. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, I mean, um, the Hawks are on the outside looking in right now, and the Pens were for a good while until recently. They obviously did sneak into that last wild card spot.
Well, the
Um,
Hawks have just snuck in the last wildcard spot in the West too.
oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Um,
So
but yeah,
it's kind of crazy how similar they both are. Um, but they're both kind of starting to find their form a little bit. It seems like I say that hesitantly as a Pens fan because I've thought that other times this season, and then they drop a stinker like a 4-0 loss to Carolina. But um, you know, the last two games from the Pens have been pretty huge games in my opinion, especially that 6-5 win against Boston because of the fact that they blew that lead but didn't stop playing. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was big. But
and Chicago just, I mean, it was Ottawa who are pretty horrific this year, but they just spanked them 8-2. So
wow.
they're starting to find their form a little bit as well. So it's still early enough to where we can't really make too many assumptions other than teams like Vegas and Tampa are pretty much obviously guaranteed to make the playoffs at this point, barring some disastrous meltdown. Outside of that, there's still teams that could get in. I mean, Pittsburgh's got the last wild card in the East at 47, and there's three teams sitting at 46 points. So, I mean, that tells you how close of a race it is.
Well, I will say this from our fanhood perspective. Sounds crazy, but I actually don't think it would be such a bad thing if the Penguins flipped over to the Atlantic and faced Tampa first. And that sounds like it's insane, I know. But quite frankly, if they're not going to get past Tampa, I don't think it matters when. I would rather get them out of the way if they can.
Yeah,
So, but we'll see. Obviously, I don't think the Pens are going to be able to survive having to go through Washington and the Jackets again. I just there's just no way.
I feel you there.
But
The
we'll
other
see.
thing that worries me about flipping over the Atlantic side is the potential of having to match up with Boston in the second round.
Yeah, that is the thing. They
just
can't
because
seem to beat
we
Boston when
don't
it
seem
matters.
to play well against Boston.
Most time. I mean, the last couple of years, they've actually. I think they've won the past couple season series against the Bruins.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. There's um, something about Boston. I wouldn't want that.
Yeah,
But
man. There's just some teams that it seems like at times we can't beat. Chicago's another one.
yeah, what they're like 0-8
Obviously we
the
don't
last
play them
couple
that
of years.
often, but we just can't seem to beat them when we do play them. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, that's all I've got for the NHL. So
All right. Well, we'll shift to the NFL, but real quick, I guess. I mean, obviously, we don't usually touch on college football because there's just too much of it. But obviously, recently the national championship did happen, and can't say I can't. So I crashed at about at halftime when it was 13 zip Georgia. And yet still was not shocked at all when I woke up and saw that the winner was Alabama. I somehow figured that's just what was going to happen. And
I wasn't shocked that Alabama won. I'm shocked they did it with their second string quarterback. Is kind of the crazy part to me.
well,
And
yeah,
he
that's the
played
thing.
out of his mind.
Is I'm not shocked waking up and seeing that score, but when I learned that they pulled their starter at halftime, I was like, and inserted a true freshman. I was like, holy shit! I couldn't believe that.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty crazy.
It's pretty crazy, man. Nick Saban is. I don't like him. I don't like Alabama. I don't like Nick Saban. But there's really no questioning he's the Bill Belichick of college football.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any
that's
coach
exactly what I was
gonna
gonna say.
with him.
Yeah, pretty
You know,
much.
we don't usually cover college football because, like you said, there's just far too many teams to cover. Outside of touching on the playoffs, maybe. But I didn't get to watch that game because I was working, unfortunately, and I didn't have any way to stream it or do anything like that at the time. Not that I don't know. I might have watched it just because it is a national championship, but I really don't care for either team that was in it, Alabama or Georgia. So it was kind of like yeah, that's going on, but I don't really care kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel ya. Well, on that note, let's shift to the NFL, and boy, were we wrong about our picks.
Well, we were wrong on one day. We were right on the other day.
Okay.
But before we get in the playoffs, I'm just going to cover one bit of coaching news because I think this one is huge news. You probably heard it.
Yeah.
John Gruden's back, baby. He's back with the Raiders.
That's
$10 million deal.
That is quite the
$10 million
contract.
a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For 10 years, man.
10 years. 10
Which
years,
I
10
mean,
million.
he's not gonna. He's not. There's no shot now he's gonna be there for 10 years.
No,
But
I doubt he is, but that's a big deal. He has coached for the Raiders before, hasn't he? I'm pretty sure.
the who?
The Raiders. I don't think this is his first tenure with the Raiders.
Oh wait. Did you say Raiders or Rams?
Raiders. He went to the Raiders, man.
Oh, I thought you said Rams.
No, he's
I'm
with the
sorry.
Raiders.
Yeah, that's really his claim to fame when he won the Super Bowl with them
Hmm.
back in God. What was it, like '04? I don't know. It was a
It's
while
been a
ago.
while. Yeah, it was
Um,
before I really got into football. That's why I had to ask. Really, I wasn't much of a football fan until around the '05 time. So basically, when I started getting into it.
when the Steelers won, you picked a good time.
Yeah. Hmm. And then right after that, my team won with the
Yeah,
Colts in
yeah.
06-07. So, um, but yeah, that's one of the bigger pieces of coaching news. Obviously, that's huge. He's a huge name coach. The Raiders were a disappointing team this year, so let's see what he can do if he can get in and get them playing to where they should be at the level of talent they have. So,
Right.
um, but yeah, let's go over what happened in the week one of the playoffs. Like you said, we were wrong with a couple of our picks. We both picked the Chiefs over the Titans, and looking at halftime, we we thought we were going to be pretty set with that pick. That was 21-3 at halftime. Um, you know, the Titans were uh, not doing anything pretty much the entire first half of that game. And they come out and won off a couple of crazy plays, especially the Mariota pass to himself. I don't know if you saw
Yeah.
anything about that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, they got
just
a little bit lucky,
absolutely.
really, but it happens.
Yeah, they did, and it ended up shifting them into the Patriots matchup
Well,
this
have fun
coming
with
weekend.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, over in the AFC side, the one we did get right, we both picked Jacksonville over Buffalo. Um, It wasn't an exciting game by any means. It was a 10-3 win from Jacksonville. Not a ton of offense to be found, only one touchdown, and that was a Bortles pass in the fourth quarter, I think. Um, you know, defensive struggle. Jacksonville's claim to fame this year is defense. Buffalo's always been kind of a defensive first team, and you had two, let's call them second tier quarterbacks in Bortles and Taylor. So it
Yeah.
wasn't really an offensive showdown, but Jacksonville got it done, and they get to move on and play the Steelers this week in that rematch of that Week 5 game. I think it was Week 5.
Mhm.
Um, Over the NFC side, we picked the Rams to beat the Falcons, and we were wrong about that one. I will say that's the one I was least confident in. I thought that was a coin flip of a game. Like we both said, it just depended on which Falcons showed up, and the Falcons that went to the Super Bowl last year, or the Falcons team that showed up in that game, um, pretty much outplayed the Rams all game and beat them 26-13. So, um, but the one we did get right, we picked the Saints to beat the Panthers, and we were right about that one. It was a close game. It came down to the wire. 31-26, I think, was the final. But the Saints did enough, held on, and they got the win over Carolina when they needed to. So the Falcons get to move on to play the Eagles this week, and the Saints are moving on to play Minnesota. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and run down the games from this weekend and give our picks this time. We'll start with your team, Sean. Pittsburgh playing Jacksonville at Pittsburgh.
Well, actually, okay. Real quick, I do have some somewhat breaking news that I just remembered I heard
Uh-huh.
on the way home on the radio. I
What's that?
guess Artie Burns for the Steelers left practice today, and I guess it didn't look super good. Um, so that's it's not tragic, but because he's been kind of up and down this season, so it's hard to say how he would play. But
Hmm.
at any rate, obviously he is a starting corner, so uh, you know if he can't play, that's not great for the Steelers. But obviously they're facing the Jags offense, which isn't exactly a passing
Yeah, I was going to
offense.
say they're not
So
a pass first offense. So if there's a position you do want to lose on defense, it probably is corner if you had to
yeah,
pick.
but
Um,
anyway, yeah, I'm gonna go with Steelers. Like I said, I think it's gonna be much like last season, how Pittsburgh lost to Miami in the regular season and then redeemed that loss against the Dolphins in the playoffs. We all know Week 5, Roethlisberger threw 5 picks against the Jags and they lost by 21 points. So um, Pittsburgh has been outwardly saying that they want the Jags. You know, Roethlisberger has been saying that he's going to make up for Week 5. So I got to go with Steelers. I think they're going to play a much better game. Kind of hard to see them losing this one, but it could. I mean, it could happen.
It's playoffs. Anything can happen. But I'm gonna stick with you on this one. We're gonna stay in agreement. It's 5 in a row now, but yeah, I'm gonna take Pittsburgh. It really is a matter of Pittsburgh's offense versus Jacksonville's defense and the two teams' two strong points. But the problem is, I don't think Jacksonville's offense is going to be able to keep up, even if their defense plays lights out and shuts them down most of the game. It's still going to be a matter of is that enough to keep their offense in play. And that's where I think the big difference in this game is going to be is I don't think Jacksonville's going to really be able to do anything offensively because Pittsburgh doesn't have a horrible defense by any means. So
No, it's
yeah.
it's much improved
Mm-hmm.
than it's been in the last few years.
So yeah, even if Jacksonville's defense plays great, I don't think they're going to be able to shut down Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell the entire game, and Pittsburgh is
well,
going to put up some points. So
one thing that that could also be a factor is AB because he was hurt in I think like week 16 or whatever it was. So if he's not 100%, he might be a little easier for them to cover, and they do have the number one passing defense, so
yeah,
that could be a
but here's the
factor there.
thing: if AB's there, he's going to draw double coverage. It doesn't matter how effective he's playing; he's going to draw double coverage either way. If he draws double coverage, that opens up Smith-Schuster, and if Smith-Schuster's open, we've seen Smith-Schuster
Yeah.
can ball too. So
Well, him and
um,
Bryant as well. So
yeah. So if AB's on the field, that's going to change it no matter even if AB's not playing 100%, just because he's going to draw the focus of the defense.
yeah,
So
yeah, I would say the Jags pretty much are gonna have to force at least 2 turnovers to win the game.
mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, they're going to have to force 2 turnovers, and they're going to have to get some points off them. Is the big thing.
Yeah,
They can get as many turnovers as they want, but if their offense can't capitalize once they get the ball back, it's not going to matter. So
right.
um, let's skip right over to the other AFC game. New England is at home in Foxborough against the Tennessee Titans. What do you got in this one?
As much as I want to say Tennessee, there's just no way. I don't think on this planet or any other can Marcus Mariota outplay Tom Brady. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, I'm right there with you. We don't really have to spend much time on this one. I don't think a lot of people are going to pick Tennessee in this game, to be honest with you.
No.
Um, it's a pretty unanimous choice that New England's probably going to come out of this one. First off, you get a team in Tennessee that doesn't have a ton of playoff experience. They haven't been in it in several years. I can't remember the last time they made it is. Versus the team that's the current Super Bowl champions, reigning Super Bowl champions. So they probably have more playoff experience than anybody in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be a pretty one. Plus, Tennessee is not really a southern team, but they usually probably have a little bit better weather than they're going to see in Foxborough in January. So
yeah, have fun with that.
I think that's going to play a factor. But let's we both picked Pittsburgh in that matchup and New England in their matchup. So we have a AFC conference final, which most people expected Pittsburgh and New England.
Yep.
Let's hop over to the NFC. Let's start with Philly at home in Philadelphia versus the Atlanta Falcons. What do you got in this one, Sean?
Oh man. Wait, is it Atlanta and the Saints? Or no?
No, it's Atlanta and the Eagles.
Eagles.
Falcons,
Eagles.
Eagles.
Sorry. Oh, the battle.
Of the birds.
Yeah, the battle of the birds. Man. I think Atlanta has, they've been kind of a streaky team this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you couple the fact that they're coming off a big playoff win, I think they'll maintain that momentum. And the fact that the Eagles don't have their starting quarterback, I think the Falcons can actually pull this one off.
Sorry, gotcha. So you're going for the Falcons on that one?
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is the first time we're going to disagree. I'm actually going to pick Philly in this one. Even without Wentz, I think Philly's going to surprise some teams. They have home field advantage. They've got a decent defense. They've actually got a defense better than most people think. They've got some weapons on offense. Still, Nick Foles isn't awful. They've got Jay Ajayi there running the ball. I'm gonna go with Philly to kind of surprise everyone because they are the underdog in this game. Surprisingly, even though they are the number one seed, they are the underdog. I'm gonna
Right.
go with them in this one. I think they're gonna pull it off at home.
Yeah. Again, only because they don't have their starter. That one's
If they had Wentz, I think it'd be a pretty unanimous choice. Though.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's a bit more
But
of a coin flip now.
I think the reason I'm making this pick is I think Philly sees the fact that people are picking against them even though they're at home and they are the number one seed, and they're gonna play with a chip on their shoulder, like, hey, we're more than just Carson Wentz. We're a full team, and
Yeah.
they're gonna kind of come out with something to prove. So that's why I'm going with them on this one. But let's skip over to the last game of the week. Minnesota is hosting New Orleans for the last game in the NFC.
Oh man. I think I guess maybe 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 just so it becomes an NFC South matchup of
Mm-hmm.
the Saints and Falcons. I'm gonna go with the Saints. I think.
You going with Saints this one?
Yeah, I mean they're playing at Minnesota, right?
They are playing at Minnesota. Keep in mind Minnesota plays in a dome, so weather's
Yeah,
not going to be a
yeah,
factor.
yeah. I mean, exactly what I was gonna say. Obviously, the Saints are used to playing in a dome, um, and that's obviously particularly not going to phase Breeze. And I think he'll be able to do his thing. So
Yeah. Um, we're gonna stick in agreement on this one. So only one time out of the 8 games that we disagreed. I'm sticking with New Orleans. They're my pick to go all the way in the NFC.
mm,
I think their offense is just too much for any team to stop between Ingram, Kamara, and Breeze. And their defense is playing much better than they would expect them to. So Minnesota's got a heck of a defense. I do not trust Case Keenum as a playoff quarterback. Um, he's been good this year. I can't disagree that he has been, but he's still Case Keenum. I mean,
yeah,
he's
up
game
against
managed at
Breeze,
best. And
yeah, it's
yeah,
gonna be hard.
exactly. So even though they are away, Minnesota has the home field advantage. I'm still going to take New Orleans in this one, just because I trust New Orleans offense to get it done.
Yep.
So that would give us, well, you've got a New Orleans Atlanta NFC final. I have New Orleans and Philly. So we'll see what happens. We'll check out the games, come back next week, and run them down and see who was right, who was wrong, what ends up, and we'll take a look at next week's games after that.
Sounds good to me, brother. On that note, we'll go ahead and sign off. As always, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed it, like and subscribe and comment. If you didn't, comment, tell us why. We appreciate all feedback. Also, make sure you tune in every week to our podcast about video games, the Console Space podcast. Yeah, Tyler, like you said, we'll do it again next week, and we'll see which teams are going to be representing their conferences.
Sounds good, man. Can't wait. I'm actually kind of excited about these playoffs more than I thought I would be. So.
Yep. Uh, if the Steelers do win, it'll be interesting to see if they can finally overcome the Pats. But
yeah, assuming the Patriots win too, but that's kind of almost a foregone conclusion. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I think there's 8 solid teams in the playoffs right now that could potentially go all the way. So we'll see what happens.
For sure. All right, man. I will talk to you then.
Sounds good. Have a good one, Sean.
Later.